Good morning, everyone. Um, I'm laughing because Charlie's in the background singing away. Oh, boy. So, welcome, everybody, here at Unity of the Seacoast in New Hampshire. Glad to see all the smiling faces here, and hopefully, everyone at home is having a wonderful morning. Today's daily word, um, seasons. Throughout the season of my life, my Christ light shines brightly. When winter follows the autumn harvest and the sun's light grows weaker, what may resemble barren land is actually a time of rest, a preparation for a new cycle of seasons. The sun's light and warmth changes in ways that perfectly suit each season. My life, like the planet Earth, moves through the seasons, the awakening of wonder in childhood, exciting and sometimes stormy growth during adolescence and early adulthood, the achievements of middle years, and the fulfillment the maturity can bring. The Christ presence, the divine light within me, is my unfailing source of strength, understanding, and comfort in every season of life. And said God, let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Genesis 1:14. Seasons. Throughout the seasons of my life, my Christ light shines brightly. Now I'd like to take a minute and have us all say our mission statement if you'd like. We are a loving, nurturing community dedicated to being a positive path to spiritual living, to awaken oneness in God within us all. We dedicate this year to activating the abundance and prosperity in our lives with gratitude, love, action, and connecting to the divine within us and the world around us. You can also talk slow, you'll just be way behind me. So, we broadcast live on Facebook and on our YouTube channel for those who want to listen to us from home or other places. I'd like to say good morning to Ed. Ed is unable to be here today. He's not feeling well. Um, he actually got diagnosed with pneumonia, but he's starting to feel better. Um, his wife's now gotten a little sick. So, yes. So he's resting, and yes, prayers to Ed. And actually, Frank and Ginny are not here. Thank you for reminding me. He's been on my mind. Um, Frank has not been feeling well. Um, I'm going to contact him later this afternoon and see how he's doing because he hasn't been feeling well. But he did say that he is on the mend. So, yeah. So, like to just mention our donate button, not donut. I think I'd like it better if it was a donut button, you know. Our donate button is on the website. We would appreciate it if you feel inspired by us, if you would like to tithe to us so that we can keep our mission statement alive. Um, you can do that through our website or through the Tidely app. Also, you can do it through mail by mailing a check to Unity of the Seacoast, McConnell Center, Suite 246, 61 Locust Street, Dover, New Hampshire, 03820. As you know, we have events here on other days of the week. Some of the events that we have, the first Monday of every month, our own Charlie Richard does a meditation. Woohoo! The crowd is going wild. Yay, Charlie. Um, it's at 7 p.m. on Facebook only. Oh, it is tomorrow, and the topic is gratitude. I love that. Um, we also have acoustic music circle um, with Mikey G. Um, it's always a good time here when we have acoustic music circle. There are people from the community who come. You don't have to play a musical instrument. You can just come here and hang out or sing. It's a lovely time. People are very, very supportive of each other. At, and it, I'm getting there. Boy, everybody's being pushy. I didn't think that happened in Unity. Wow. So, the crowd. So it does, because they know me. That's why they're being pushy, because they know me. Um, so, Acoustic Music Circle is November 10th from noon to 3. So that's next Sunday from noon to 3, right here at the McConnell Center. Um, and now the next thing we will do is a tradition that I really, really love. Um, I love it because um, it brings me closer to the people here, but I also love it because it reminds me of forgiveness, actually. Um, it reminds me of forgiveness because we do namaste and we think about the best in me honors and sees the best in you. The flip side of that is the worst of me. Um, and none of us like to be judged by our worst day. And namaste is a practice that really reminds us to know that people are really doing our best. So please stand and put your hands together and bow and say namaste to your neighbor. So now we're going to have a little bit of music, hopefully. Wow. Tom, who was that? I wondered. I wondered. So Faith Rivera, who has performed for us in the past, and what energy she has. Um, so as you see, we um, we didn't have technical difficulties really, but but it would be nice if we could have Barbara play that sometime, because Barbara has a lovely voice. And wow, and I did not realize that Barbara's out today because she's sick. So, um, Barbara, we're thinking about you. Hopefully, you feel well very soon. So, now I just want to introduce Tom the minister, have him come on up. Um, Great to see you, Tom.
Good to see you, Trace. I love you.
Me too.
Set it on that one. I'm going to use this. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is having a good day. I know that certain people are not because they're sick, not feeling well. So for them, I hope they heal fast, and we affirm it so. And we miss everyone who's not here. This is an odd week. There is a ridiculous amount of tension in the air because we have elections coming up. And I was not intending to be political. I would love to tell you all who to vote for. But I can't do that. But what I can tell you is we each have a conscience. We each have a moral center. We each have standards that we believe in. And I believe that should be the first thing that we turn to when we vote, not just for this election, but for any election. Because each presidential election, I hear the term, it comes down to the lesser of two evils. And that is a sad state of affairs. And these people who run, for the most part, they start at lower levels. So we have to be diligent in who we elect at the lower levels and who we bring up forward. Jesus fought against the hypocrisy of the time. He fought against it in the Jewish leaders who were running the communities and the Roman governors, the Roman, can't think of the name, but ruled the Roman Empire. Yeah, thank you. And hypocrisy happens when we let it happen, when we get apathetic toward the process. So it's important that we, every time we vote, and every time we elect someone, we really look at the hypocrisy of it. We look at who seems to fit our moral compass, our center. And having said all that, I urge you guys to vote, and I urge you to vote on what you know is right in your heart. And whoever you vote for, I can't tell you that, but I just can't let this election go without saying something. So for those who get bothered by that, please forgive me. And there we are. Happy Hanukkah. So today's talk is one I've done off and on for years, various combinations. It's about a new perspective. And I'm going to start with a quote from Myrtle Fillmore that I read last week, but I just love this quote. Why not, on first awakening, remind ourselves that this is a fresh, new day, full of opportunity and fragrant with possibilities. The restrictions of yesterday have no power to overshadow our lives today when we realize that we are in the eternal now. Let us begin our day with newness, thought, and courage. And I love that. Fragrant with a possibility. That is such a great line. And then the other thing, when we realize we are in the eternal now, because we only live in the now. Even when I read that quote, it's already passed. We live each moment fresh, and that's our starting point. That is a gift from God, that we get a starting point every new now. We can be the best that we can be in as many moments as possible. And I always say that, as many moments as possible, because we make mistakes. We're not always present. So allow those moments that we're not to happen as well. And then make adjustments. Don't dwell on it. Don't say, oh, I was a horrible person. Use it for wisdom and walk forward. So I'm going to ask, does anyone remember what the meaning of repent is? Yes, yes. Yeah. If you find a way that's not working, let it go and find a new way. It's not the hellfire that we knew growing up, that we were taught. In other words, it's changing your perspective. And it's something that we can do in as many aspects of our lives as possible. It allows us to see and seek new answers to the world and to our own thoughts. And I've told this story before, but I love this story. My son called me up one day. My son was living in Ireland. He's a poet, and a very good poet. At one point, he was named Ireland's best spoken word poet. He's spoken in France and Milan and all over the place, toured the country several times. And even at that level, being a poet is not the high-paying career that people thought of. And he called me up, and he was kind of nervous. And he was struggling to get by, and he had lost his credit card. And he's going, and I dread it. Every time that bill comes in, I dread paying that thing. And so I asked him, I said, where would you be without that credit card? He goes, Dad, I'd be in a lot of trouble. That credit card has allowed you to live in Ireland and cover your bills until you can catch back up. So when those bills come in, maybe you should thank them. And he thought about that, and he did. So later he stared at the bill, and he thanked it. But before the phone call ended, I said, Bo, you have a lot of talents in your life. What could you do in the immediate to make money? He goes, well, I have a few articles I can submit, and I know I'll get $100 or 100 so for them. I said, so do that. And then I reminded him that he was also a good waiter. He goes, I don't want to be a waiter. And I said, Bo, there are a lot of people who are waiters. There are a lot of actors and actresses and singers and all that. It's just a means to an end. So he later went out and he got a job as a waiter in a restaurant in Dublin, I believe it was. But after the phone call and he thanked those bills, he remembered he had gone to Tesco's Market. So he called them and they said, "We have your card. We've been waiting for you to call." And what I was teaching Bo was to turn it around, use a new perspective. That card is a gift. Granted, you got to pay for it at the end of the month, but it's allowed him to live in Ireland, allowed him to get around, and also reminded him that he has talents. There's things that he knows that he can do to get through life. And I love that because there are so many gifts that each one of us have that we don't fall back upon. We don't turn inwards first. And I've told you the story of the fish, which is my favorite story, but I won't tell you again. I won't bore you. So my second favorite story is Goliath. This was a guy who was a shepherd. His skill was protecting the flock. And he used that little slingshot thing that he made. So when they were faced with going to war with I can't remember the other country, but Goliath was the biggest, bravest warrior. He was by far the one, and they wanted someone to challenge him. And none of the people would challenge him because he was too big, except Goliath. He goes, "I can do it." He was so small that he couldn't wear the chain maul. He put it on, he couldn't move, he had to take it off. But he went out to face Goliath. Goliath mocked him. The people on his side mocked him. And he wasn't fazed because he had taken down beasts protecting the herd. So he saw Goliath as just another beast. And he picked up a stone and put it in that little sling and hit him right in the forehead, and Goliath dropped. What he was doing is he used what he knew. He didn't see a warrior. He changed his perspective. He saw it as a beast, something he had done before and that he can do. David became what was considered the greatest king of Israel. And that was the starting point because he had confidence in what he knew on the inside. Each one of us has gifts that we know on the inside that make us who we are, that make us strong, that make us proud. And pride is not a sin when you have pride in your own being. Doesn't mean you are better than anyone else, but it doesn't mean you are less than. Pride in this way without ego is something that helps drive us forward. If Goliath didn't have pride in what he knew, he would not have made that attempt. Every day in our lives, we use something that we know. It doesn't have to be spectacular. Just turning inside and knowing something and having pride and confidence in your ability. Part of a new perspective is not looking out at the way the other world judges you, the outer world judges you. It's looking inside for your strength on who you are and allowing that to rise to the surface, to manifest. The story of Goliath, the story of the fish. Have I told you the fish story before? Yeah, it's a good story. The reason I like that is because that's what caught the attention of people at Unity and allowed me to write in the Bible. But anyway, going in and using what you know every day is your new perspective because we absorb what the outer world tells us. We've done that since birth. When we're born a clean slate. And then all these things influence or even corrupt who we are, who we tell ourselves we are, the way we feel about ourselves. When we're born, for me, I was born a Schindler. I was born a Catholic. I was born a guy from New Jersey. All these things, that's the container that we start out in. And when we talk about Christianity, we start out with these doctrines from the rules and stuff that we were born in. And at some point, we start to shift, become more who we are. And those container things drop away. I had to let go of being a Catholic because it didn't make sense to me. I had to redefine what it meant to be a Schindler because I'm not the Schindler of the past. The past Schindlers were very rigid. They had their own style of life, and that didn't add up for me. Didn't add up for my brother, and I don't think it added up for my sisters. So each one of us have had to define what being a Schindler meant. Each one of you has to define what being you means. You get all these new things, and you get to determine what's going to be part of your container, how the world is going to view you. And you get to let go of all the limitations of the past. You know, I've told you this before. I was supposed to be a mechanic, according to my parents. And I was good at fixing things, but I couldn't see myself as a mechanic. The fact that I'm here, Reverend, speaking to you, would have blown my parents away. They'd be in the back row laughing. That's him, huh? We knew him when he picked his nose. But we all have these things. And we all learn from these things. And we all have faith in who we are. And that's an important thing. And we all have faith in that we see Jesus as the way shower. We all have faith in these various things in life. When Jesus met Peter was a fisherman. He was probably a smelly guy because he was mending nets. Asked him to row the boat, to hold the boat steady. He asked him that because he knew he had a skill. Peter accepted because he knew he had a skill. Jesus wanted to speak to the crowds and knew that he had to be out on the water to convey everything for a couple reasons. It's the vantage point of being seen, but also his voice carries over water. And then later, Peter's walking to him, and he's walking on water. And he begins to sink. He gets scared, and he sinks. And touches Jesus' hands, and Jesus raises him up, and he's allowed to walk on the water. What that story represents is when you have faith in the Christ within you, in all that you are, you can rise above. But when we let go of that faith, we sink. We get a new perspective when we connect with the Christ within us, when we can connect with God. You know, that story is so important that it's told twice in the Bible, in Matthew 8 and in Mark 4. And the Bible is full of these stories that you get to look at. They're full of the miracle stories. And I like the miracle stories, and I don't like the miracle stories. I like the miracle stories because if you can take a step back and look for the lesson and let go of the miracle, you can find something that's practical and take a new perspective on it. When you just look at the miracle stories as miracle stories, it's hard to convey a message except go home and pray for a miracle. And that's not a good message. It's nice to have hope, but it's also nice to think, how do these miracles manifest themselves? What's the lesson in the story? You know, I've told you the story before about feeding the masses. That was a miracle story. He held up the baskets, did a prayer of thanks, and passed them around, and everyone was fed. It's one of mine, but I don't see it in the same way. What I see it is, he had little to give. The bread was in the baskets. He held it up. He gave thanks for the little that he had to give. And then he passed those baskets around. Now these people, they came to hear him speak. 5,000 and later 4,000. They lived in hard times. They weren't coming to learn about life after death. They were coming for the immediate. Now, I don't know about you, but when I leave my house, I don't go anywhere without a drink. And if I'm going to be gone all day, I don't go anywhere without finding a way to eat. Now, there's no convenience stores out in the ancient wilderness. There's no hot dog stands. People came equipped for the journey. They don't walk out of their house and bring their sick grandmother or child for a torturous journey. They leave their house prepared, hoping to heal, hoping to inspire. So these people get there. Some have brought enough for the trip, some maybe did not. So that basket, he takes it. He does not take any for himself, and he passes it around. And these people see that example. And those who have reach in their pockets or their satchels, and they place something in the basket. And those who don't have can reach in and eat. And that basket, or those baskets go around, and they go around until everyone was fed. The miracle of the story is that without saying a word, except for thanks, he raised the consciousness of the people. They're faced with the task now. When that basket hits them, do they accept his word? Do they reach in and do the right thing? Or they just ignore it? I believe they all did the right thing in that moment, and everyone was fed. The biggest miracle is that he raised humanity without saying a word, because we get to carry each other at any given moment in our lives. That's the perspective I like to take. That's my new perspective of that story. We will face fear. We will face choices in our day. And we need to step back and make a new perspective. How many times have we been in a conversation with someone and someone has said something negative and we've taken offense? And maybe that negativity wasn't really directed toward you. Maybe it's something going on in their life. Maybe they're having a tough day, like we've had tough days in our lives. We've all said those things that we wish we could snatch it back and bring back. We have to allow them that same perspective. Let them off the hook. Why inflame the situation? Most of the time, people are not out to say something to harm you. And if they are, it doesn't matter. They're not you. They're not living your life. Let it roll off your shoulder. If there's a hint of truth in their criticism, examine it. If it fits, solve it, and then let it go. One of the great things about human emotions, good or negative, is they have a job to do. And when it's negative, allow the negativity to tell you the message, and then let it go. Nothing is personal until we make it personal. Take a new perspective when you're speaking with friends and family and all those around you. Allow the breaks that you wish in life for yourself to be offered to each other, to be offered to your friends and your families and your neighbors, because we are going to have those moments that we need to be let off the hook too. Wow, I've jumped quite a bit. But I go back to each story in the Bible. I go back to each interaction. And it's about stepping back to a new perspective. I remember living down in Florida, and I had a turtle pond in the front yard. And it was just beautiful. It was just a small little pond that was just mine. Pulled in the yard one day and I saw this truck backed up to it and a kid fishing with his grandfather. I had to explain to them why you can't fish here. And they were just blown away. It's a pond, I could fish. Well, first of all, you're in the middle of a lawn. But because this pond meant so much to me, occasionally I would go out there and it'd be really bright and sunny, and I would look in, and I could see nothing except the reflection of the clouds above. But I knew if I walked around the pond and I changed my angle and the sun wasn't reflecting in my eye, I could see deep into the pond. And there was a whole new ecosystem down there that you wouldn't get to see. The turtles and the fish and the algae. And one of my favorite stories is there was a little baby turtle that sat at one end. And all the other hard-shelled turtles would kept swimming around, and they always checked on it. And about every 15 minutes or so, one would just stay there. The turtle would get on its back, it would go around the pond, and then bring it back to the same spot. And without a new perspective, without walking around and seeing this pond from different angles, I would not have noticed that. When you're doing things in life, don't let life just be a reflection of what you can already see. Spend time to walk around your pond and look at the angles and the new perspective that you can learn about your life, about those around you in your neighborhood, about your family. Spend time to listen to the stories that they have, because listening isn't art. People are always spending time thinking about the next thing they're going to say instead of hearing the story. And when you hear people, you get a great new perspective. Years ago, I'd watched a documentary on these two kids. One was from Israel and one was from Palestine. And they were brought together for a week. And these kids had so much fun together because they saw each other from a new perspective. We need to do that in as many moments as possible. Now, granted, probably none of us are going to get overseas to countries that we feud with or countries that we don't like. But we find people in our own country, in our own neighborhood, in our own yard, who look at life different from us. Listen to them. They may have something to say that's important. And they may just say stuff that make you reaffirm who you are. Say, okay, I get why I don't get that. And be happy with who you are. But spend time looking at your pond through a new perspective. There's so many angles that we get to look at our lives with. We get to drop the limitations of the past. I got to drop all the containers that made me a Schindler to be another Schindler. My daughter, her parents were born in Korea. She was born in Hawaii. And we adopted her, and she has redefined what it means to be a Schindler. We went down, we saw her last Tuesday. From a parent's point of view, you see your kid, he's 30-something now, in a whole different light. She was making a chicken soup. She had her own way of doing it, her own way of cooking it in this pressure cooker that was an air fryer, then to the stove. She sauteed all the vegetables before. She had certain spices. She did that. She made tea. She used this tea strainer thing, which she can make her own blend by mixing teas. All these things that we never taught her. All these things that she did on her own. She has redefined not only as a Schindler, but as the way we see her as a daughter. It was amazing. I was in awe all day and driving back. We all get new perspectives on life. And to me, that's just one of the most amazing gifts. That's the freedom of choice. That's eating from the tree of good and evil, of knowledge. we get this independent choice given by God to us to use to create our own lives. And I've gone way off script here, which I tend to do a lot lately. And it's nice because I stack up talks and eventually I'll get to them. But we get to choose how we see the world and hopefully how the world sees us. And I guarantee you they're not going to see you the same way that you see yourself. But that's because they also have the right to their own perspective. Thank you. So I'm going to take a moment. We don't have a music to lead us into the meditation. So I want to begin with prayers of the people. I ask each one of you to get comfortable. And at any given moment in our world, in our neighborhood, in our pond, in our state, in our country, and across our globe, there are people who are going through difficult times, or facing a brave battle. Sometimes the battle is illness. Sometimes the battle is mental illness, depression, maybe hunger, maybe feeling that they're different or that they're alone. Maybe it's feeling you can't walk out the door. And there's also those who have it all in the flow in this moment. Those who are wise and respected and comfortable. So for those who are suffering, we see this whole, happy, healthy, and we affirm it. And for those who have, we affirm wisdom, we affirm respect, we affirm generosity, we affirm empathy, we affirm compassion. And at the same time, in those moments that are needed, we affirm apathy. Because sometimes people come with problems over and over and over, and we have to show apathy to allow them to stand on their own 2 feet. So we do not enable. But we affirm all the best in everyone to cover all bases of how love flows between humans, and between our planet, and the creatures of our planet, and the environment of our planet. We affirm the best world that we can possibly imagine. I want you to know it's okay to affirm utopia, because I'd rather strive for utopia and maybe miss it by a little bit than not to strive at all. And so it is. Amen. And now as you're sitting there in your comfortable position, I ask each of you to begin your comfortable breathing pattern. An in and an out that works with you. Breathing in, we acknowledge there is only one power, one presence in our lives and in the universe. God the good and great omnipresent. Because God is omnipresent, let that light of God fill us. That light begins to glow. from deep within. Expanding, getting brighter and brighter. And let your mind picture yourself in your comfortable spot. Maybe it's a field. Maybe it's a beach. Maybe it's your living room. And sit in your spot and allow the warmth of God to fill you. Allow each part of your body to be whole and healthy. If there's a part of you that's ailing, move that light to that part of your body. Picture yourselves pink and healthy and vibrant. You are whole. You are happy. You are healthy. You are complete. Born from perfection into perfection. And so it is. I invite you back. And we'll do the offerings and then the prayer for tithes and offerings. Divine me, divine love as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. Join me for the prayer protection. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well, and we are richly blessed. Thank you so much. There won't be a peace song. There will be a peace song. So join us for the peace song. And at Fellowship, we are doing a board meeting. It's an open meeting, so I hope you all stay stick around and we're bribing you with food. Thanks.